I don't even want to hear his name. That was said by somebody about a politician. And I'm sure all of us can think about at least one person who has let us down, who has left us carrying the bag. Someone we have found to be a broken stick. It is a fact that we all need someone to lean on. The key is to find the right person. The psalm before us points us to the one that we can lean on with total confidence, the one we must look to for help. And it says in verse 5 of the psalm, when we trust him for help, we are never disappointed. We are happy. Now, the God referred to in this psalm wants to relate to us in a personal way. Note it says, is the God of Jacob. So they want to do something. Take out Jacob and put your name in there. See him as your God. And when you do that, honestly, you will see God working in ways that will amaze you. He says, call upon me, I'll answer you, and show you great and mighty things that you don't know. That's the God we serve. And so as we look through the psalm over the next couple of weeks, we want to look at some things about God that will help us to understand why we can be happy when we put our trust in this God. You notice the psalm begins with praise. Praise to the Lord. He is a wonderful God. When you look at how God operates, you have to respond with praise. Two things this morning we're going to look at about God. First of all, in verse 6, this God is powerful. It says, he made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them. This may take for granted in today's world, but in context, it was a very powerful statement because, you see, there were people in that day who worshiped the sun, moon, and stars. And I found strange, that I met a couple of people today who say must worship the sun and the moon. But I was stronger in the days of the psalm. But the psalmist affirms that God made all those things. In fact, when you go back to Genesis, it says of God, he made the stars also. A rebuke to those who worshiped the stars. You see, some people worship gods that they made. You make your own God and worship that. Today we need to remember who is really in charge. God is the creator, the maker of everything. And if he is really your God, you're going to be happy. Why? Well, there is nothing too hard for God to do. When God spoke about Sarah at age 90 having a son, Sarah laughed. That don't make no sense. God asks the question, is anything too hard for God? And in time, Sarah did have a child. He was called Isaac. Isaac means laughter. You see, if God is creator, if God made something out of nothing, then there is nothing that God cannot do. There is no problem that God cannot solve. You see, there are people who try their best to help us, but their best is not good enough. So in Daniel chapter 6, the king tried his best to save Daniel. He took a whole day trying to save Daniel, and he couldn't. Well, you know what happened? The creator of the lions shut the lions' mouths, and those lions could not hurt Daniel. Those same lions devoured those plotted against Daniel. So we need to recognize, beloved, who is the creator, who is in charge, who runs things. Because he is creator, he can make a way where there appears to be no way. So here's Israel at the Red Sea. Nowhere to go forward, enemy behind. But the creator of the Red Sea parted the water, so Israel could pass through on dry land. Understand this, that God is looking down on us right now, watching to send us strong for those whose hearts are perfect towards him. As you walk through this world, you are believing in Christ, God's eyes on you to make a way for you. When you are in a tight spot, God comes through for you. For our God, the Creator, is a mover and a shaker. He gets things done, and he can do beyond our wildest dreams. I remember, I probably shared it before, by the time I came back from the camp, way back in the days when I was studying, and I was about to leave, I was asked to go to see a certain brother. He had something for me, and he began to write a check. And he wrote a number, and he wrote 10, and another 0. I thought he made a mistake, because that was money in those days. But that is what God can do. The Creator, he is a powerful person. The real power is in the hand of God, not in men who think they are powerful. And there's nothing too hard for him. It also means that there's no one who is bigger than the Creator. So here's a king who felt he was powerful. So he's having a party. And the wine goes to his head. So he sends for the vessels of the temple to drink from. And the hand began to write on the wall. And he got the interpretation of it, numbered and finished. But the thing that is striking is this. He said, the God in whose hand your breath is, you have not glorified. You see, the biggest and baddest man in this world can't take one more breath unless God allows it. Not one. You see, the same God who breathed into man can take man's breath away. So there's nobody bigger than God. I always think of Herod, who slaughtered the innocent children. But the time came when God took Herod's breath away, when Herod was dead. You see, God has the final say. And this to me is competent. We need not be afraid of anybody. For at any moment, God can take that person's breath away. I know something else, what I've experienced. Sometimes they are still alive and breathing, but they are rendered powerless. It says God breaks the bow in sunder, burns the chariot in fire. In other words, the enemy can't do anything. There are people I can think of in the church who at a certain point will be kicking up dust, giving you enough trouble. Then you see them and they can't do a thing. The power belongs to God. And if we understand this, beloved, we know we don't need to run to anybody, to the big man, whoever the big man is. We run to the one who can really help us. The psalmist says, "For thou hast been a shelter for me and a strong tower from the enemy." I think it's in the last hurricane we had, but it happened before as well, that they would have certain places that they say are shelters to go when there's a hurricane. And they'll tell you, don't go to that place anymore. It's not fit for a shelter. Well, we have a shelter that is 100% secure, safe. We can run to the Lord and be safe. He is the creator, the one with the power. And if he is the one who's my God, I need not fear anyone, because my God is able. He's able. He's the creator. The second thing we notice in Psalm 146, verse 6, is that this powerful God is also a faithful God. Keep it truth forever. There's a saying, if you want something done, do it yourself. Really, what that is saying, it's hard to find people you can trust. A faithful man who can find. Heard of somebody, things in ancient Greece, who was walking through the city in broad daylight with a candle. And he was asked, "Why are you doing this?" He said, "I'm looking for an honest man." And I guess you can say the same thing about a faithful man, somebody you can trust. Well, it is great to know that God is faithful. He is completely trustworthy. And if we depend on God, we have no regrets. So, for example, we can trust him to keep all of his promises. I shared this with a few recently. The statement, I think it's, at least I know from Jamaica, that a promise is a comfort to a fool. And I'm sure, again, maybe all of us here can remember the time when somebody promised us something. Well, one shared that his father said to him, "If you go to the mountain and buy you a bicycle." Well, he went to the mountain with his father. The bicycle never came. These are the things that happen with human beings. But when God makes a promise, he will keep it. It says in Deuteronomy 145, "There failed nothing of any good thing that God spoke to Israel. All came to pass." Everything God promised came to pass. You see, God is going to promise something and then change his mind on you. He is going to keep his word always. That's why, Psalm 15 says there that a person who can stand in God's hill, he keeps a promise even though it hurts him. Some people, will change their mind when things might seem to go in their favor. And so if they do what they promise you, they're going to lose. So, for example, you engage a speaker, but then you hear somebody who's coming to the country that you have to pay for, you forget the person you engage and you go for that person. That's how some people can operate. God is not like that. He makes you a promise, he will deliver. He promised Sarah a son, and the son came at the set time. Now, if you understand God given promises, you are freed up to live because you know that what God says He's going to do, He's going to do it. And you can rest in that assurance. If God says to you, there'll be a harvest, what do? You plant. But it says, Psalm 126, verse 5 onwards, those that sow in tears shall reap in joy. Those who go forth weeping, bearing to seed, shall doubtless come again rejoicing, bringing their sheaves. If you believe in a harvest, you will sow. Some will believe in a harvest and they don't sow. But if God promised a harvest, it will come. If He promises you a catch, you launch out. Luke 5 verse 4. Launch out into the deep. That were nets for a draft. They had worked all night and had got nothing. Peter says, Lord, because you say so, we will let down the net. He did that, and the fish came. If God promises you to supply all your needs, you will trust Him to do that and not lower your standards in any way. Trust Him. I remember some years ago, I was offered a contract to do something, to write a particular book. And I really didn't feel I could do that with integrity. And the person who made the offer said it was very lucrative. But I said no. Later on, God gave me a contract to do something else. That was lucrative too, but it didn't in any way compromise me. I'm just saying the way God works. You honor Him. He honors you. Believe Him. He will meet all your needs. Just trust Him. Because He is faithful, we can expect Him to be always there for us. There are certain things in the Bible that are there to remind us of God. When Israel left Egypt, God was there with them. By day, a pillar of cloud. By night, pillar of fire. They could always look up and be assured of His presence. But you know the problem they had? They didn't look up so much, they look around. And that's often a problem. It's our focus. We look at the things around us and not at God, who is there for us. You see, God never goes on vacation. Think about it for a moment. Everybody needs a vacation, no? You need a vacation. Remember once I was going to buy lunch somewhere where I normally go and places closed, people on vacation. Or you go to the supermarket, close for stock taking. Things happen. Or sometimes people go on strike. But God is never on strike. Every day of the year, you can count on God to be there. The promise that was given, Matthew 28, that Great Commission, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. I am with you always. You can count on Jesus. One song says, you can count on Him when things are looking dim. When everyone abandons you, as happened to Paul, the Lord is going to stand by you. Faithful God. Now, there's one thing we can be sure of in life, and that is change. So we get a new job. We go to a new class. We lose our job. There are new taxes. We get a new boss. We move to a new village. Just things change. Today, you're on the mountaintop, and tomorrow you're in the valley. Today, this person is your friend, your close friend, and tomorrow they don't know you. In the face of all of this, beloved, it is great to know that our God is unchanging. He's going to be always there, the same faithful one, we say, so unchanging. So we can face the future with confidence because we know that God is the same. You know, there are some songs that are well known, and sometimes we kind of miss the power and the meaning of some of these songs. Abide with me. Change and decay in all around I see. But thou who changest not, abide with me. He's not going to go anywhere. And all around us falls apart. He is a rock that cannot be moved. So we can face the future with confidence. There's no place for fear when God is in the midst. You see, mountains may move, but God will still be there. David experienced that at a place called Ziklag. He lost everything he had. The men turned against him. But it says, David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. When everybody else is against you, once you are for the Lord, you're sure of one thing. He's there for you. You're in the furnace, he's a fourth man. He's there. A faithful God. And I keep saying this, that, you know, what is most important for us is knowing God personally. Nothing can replace that. Come to church, yes, that's fine, but it's knowing God. For when everything else goes, that's what's going to keep us. You know, Peter, speaking to the believers who are suffering, he says, you know, what you need to do, commit your souls to God as unto a faithful creator. The two thoughts that we actually have before us today. God, the creator, is powerful. So, you know, nothing is so hard for him to do. He made all these things in the world. And so we can handle anything that comes against us. There's nobody bigger than God. The Herods eventually died. God renders the enemy powerless. So we can face the future with confidence. We know God is faithful. He's trustworthy. He will keep every promise he has made. Never abandon his people. When we trust in him, we are happy. Now the key is to make sure that you know God personally. Jesus Christ came into this world for that purpose, to die on the cross and rise again, suffering for sin, just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God. And when you have that personal relationship with the Lord, then you are ready to live positively. You are happy when you can say that this God who is powerful, this God who is faithful, is my God. I know him personally. And that makes all the difference in the world. I trust all of us today can say from our hearts that indeed he is my God. And that's how you can be happy in a world like this. Amen.